Oliver finds a home. In the dining room of the big house, two ladies were sitting at the breakfast table. Mr. Giles, now neatly dressed in a black suit, was waiting upon them. One of the ladies was old. The other was a lovely young girl of 17.
Brittles has been gone a long time,
the old lady said to Giles. Giles pulled out his watch.
1 hour and 13 minutes, ma'am.
At that moment a carriage stopped at the garden gate. A fat gentleman got out of it. He hurried into the room.
I've never heard of such a thing,
he exclaimed in excitement.
My dear Mrs. Maylie, my dear Miss Rose, what a terrible shock for you.
Oh, please, Dr. Losberne, will you come upstairs and look at the poor creature?
Rose begged.
Of course,
said the doctor.
Will you show me the way, Giles?
Giles led the doctor to his patient. The doctor remained in the patient's room for a long time. A large flat box was fetched out of his carriage. The bell in the bedroom was rung again and again. The servants went hurrying up and down the stairs. At last the doctor came to the dining room to speak to the ladies.
This is an extraordinary thing, Mrs. Maylie,
he said.
He is not in danger, I hope,
the old lady said.
No, he'll be well again in a week or two,
the doctor informed them. Then he asked them,
Have you seen this thief?
No.
Hasn't Giles told you anything about him?
No.
Would you like to see him if I come with you?
Yes, I'd like to. And I'd like Rose to come as well, if she will.
The doctor took the ladies upstairs to Giles's room. He pointed towards the bed.
There lies the wicked thief,
he said. The two ladies looked. To their astonishment, they saw a child there, fast asleep. A mere child. His face was white. His wounded arm lay across his chest. The ladies crept softly to his bed. Miss Rose bent over him. With a gentle hand, she brushed his hair from his forehead. The boy moved and smiled in his sleep as if he felt her kindness.
What can this mean?
Mrs. Maylie asked.
This poor child is no thief.
He is so young,
Rose said with tears in her eyes.
Let's go into the next room,
Dr. Losberne said to the ladies.
We mustn't wake him up.
In the next room, Miss Rose continued.
Think how young he is. Perhaps he has never known a mother's care. Perhaps he has never had a home. Poor, poor boy. Oh, Auntie, don't let them send this boy to prison.
My dear,
said the old lady,
do you think that I would harm one hair of his head? I haven't much longer to live. I must help all I can. What can I do to help this boy, Dr. Losberne?
Let me think,
said the kind-hearted doctor. For some moments he looked thoughtful. Then he asked,
Can we trust the servants to say nothing about the boy?
Yes,
Mrs. Maylie told him.
They'll do as I tell them.
Good,
said the doctor.
But, first of all, let us hear what the boy has to say when he wakes up. If we find him innocent, we will help him. But if we find that he is guilty, then we must hand him over to the police. Do you agree?
The two ladies readily agreed, for they were sure that Oliver was innocent. Oliver slept on for many hours. In the evening, when he woke up, he was very weak. But he was anxious to tell his story. The ladies wept as they heard of his miserable life. The doctor tried hard to hide his tears. They did their best to comfort the boy. Oliver slept that night with a smile on his lips. He had found a home. When the police came to ask questions, Mr. Giles and Brittles were ready with their story. Oliver had accidentally wounded himself while playing with a gun. He had nothing to do with the robbery. The housebreakers were two evil-looking men. The servants, with the help of Dr. Losberne, told their story well. The police believed them, and Oliver was left in peace. Oliver found love and kindness. Indeed, Mrs. Maylie and Rose loved the boy. So did Dr. Losberne. At the beginning of spring, the Maylies took Oliver to their house in the country. There, the fruit trees were in blossom. The garden and the fields were full of flowers. And how the birds sang! Oliver had never known such peace and such happiness. Every morning Oliver went to an old gentleman who taught him to read and to write. He went for walks with Rose and Mrs. Maylie. In the evening they sat together and talked, or Rose read aloud to them. Often Rose played the piano and sang. Old Mrs. Maylie loved to listen to this. So did Oliver. Every night he slept peacefully in a clean bed in his own room. 3 months passed by. They were months of perfect happiness for Oliver Twist.